There it is. YouTube, what's up there? Kenny here, also known as SilentFan85. Welcome to another gamer log. I just recently uploaded one doing the opening of my new card, the GTX 1070 OC Armor 8GB edition. It's like speaking a foreign language sometimes. It's hard to get out. But what I wanted to do this time is just show you how much of a beast my computer has become. It's been a total upgrade from my 960, and I wanted to provide proof in the numbers. I'm also going to include in this video a couple of benchmarks from some of my most demanding games and let you know how those are doing. Maybe a few, we'll see. But anyway, as you can see here, this is my current setup, the AMD FX 8320 8-core processor, the black edition, which is overclocked. Not overclocked by me. I have tweaked it a little bit over the months, the last year or so. I've had it about a year. My current card's an nVidia GeForce GTX 1070, again the OC edition. 16 gigs of RAM, might be upgrading that at some point, and Microsoft Windows 10. This is just a more advanced look at it. Obviously the CPU is AMD, 3.5 gigs, 8 cores. It says 8 cores. To be honest, that's not really a big deal, just because all they did is take 4 primary cores and split them into 8, like 8 smaller cores, which does help in processing, but not by a whole lot. To be honest, an i5 Intel series processor is a bit more powerful than this, so just a heads up. Anyway, RAM 16 gigs, NVIDIA GeForce 1070. 8 gigs of memory, which helps me a lot, especially as a YouTuber and a streamer, as I explained in the other video. Hardware and TL, yes, I'm not sure what that means. But anyway, shader version 5.1, total memory, so on and so forth. Operating system Windows 10. This is my BIOS, my NVIDIA high definition, the webcam I'm currently using to record this, different audio renders, and my hard drive, so on and so forth. So, how does it match up? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. By the way, I'm going to apologize for the way this video is set up. I'm doing this at 720. The ads on the side can be a bit irritating, but it's just the way the website's set up. And I trust canirunit.com. I have to this day. So now CPU, I did a while back. I did another video showing off the specs of my computer. The CPU currently ranks pretty high. This is the ranking right here. 94th percentile. 3.5 gigs, 12th generation, AMD FX 8000, 94th CPU ranks out of 1,051,507. My processor is more powerful than 991,000 of them that are on the list. And that's just the list right here. You can see that real quick. Category, it's in the extreme category. Generation, obviously 12th generation. There's been more powerful ones to come out ever since. Oh, dog's going nuts. Okay, so anyway, carrying on. Sorry, we were having some work done outside our house, and it's setting him off. He's fairly rabid. Just kidding. Maybe rabidly questionable, but anyway. Moving on. Anyway, like I said, there's been a couple generations since mine. I might upgrade at one point, but my next project is going to be my wife's PC. And after that, a water cooling system. I'm still operating off fans, which I even with this new card, I sometimes have a bit of an overheating problem. Not nearly as often as I did with my last card, which was the GTX 960, 4 gig. So, anyway, there's that. Graphics, I am curious to see how I ranked here. Now, currently, NVIDIA category enthusiast, which is kind of cool, 98th percentile. That's pretty awesome. Out of 1,933,995 graphics card tests on this website, mine is more powerful than 1,889,327. Obviously, this is where it ranks right here. About 32,000 people. Next up would be the 1080. After that, the GTX Titan X, which, damn, that's crazy. All right, category enthusiast, which is very cool. Generation, it's one of the newest generations because, like I've said before, the 1070 is the poor man's 1080. Also, there's DirectX, which is kind of cool. And, of course, OS. I mean, 10 is reliable for me so far. I really haven't had any problems. People are still preferring Windows 7. Eventually people will come around to Windows 10 because Windows 7 will be out of practice, and so on and so forth. But Windows 7, as of this moment, is still very reliable. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on to some benchmarks, and we'll go from there. I think we're going to go ahead and start with Tomb Raider, standard Tomb Raider, then we'll move on to Rise of the Tomb Raider, and then we'll move on to a couple other games. Okay, so a quick note. FPS will be affected by me recording, but as a YouTuber, this is probably one of the best tests I can do, especially with Tomb Raider, because even to today, even though Tomb Raider came out in 2013, it's still a pretty decent benchmark. And I do apologize for the dog. He's going nuts. I don't know why. I question his ethics sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the benchmark. But again, there may be a slight difference in FPS if you do this as a test on your own 1070, because again, I am recording. So we'll see what we get into. Okay. So obviously everything looks beautiful. I've got everything up to ultimate, including shadows, extreme. Shadows can really eat your GPU sometimes. So currently we're sitting at about 54, which isn't bad. 52, 53, it's going a bit down. But it's a very good test. Looking at thermostat, it's sitting well below 60 degrees Celsius, which is something you want to take into effect. If you don't have any degree monitoring or temperature monitoring software for your CPU or your GPU, I would definitely get it. Okay, so we've shot up to about 75 FPS. We're still sitting below 60. On my older car, the 960, okay, so average FPS on this is 64. Now again, I'm recording, so there may be either a minor or major difference in the FPS, but when I'm recording, I'm trying to get the best out of the game that I can to look beautiful for you guys. And this just gives you a general idea of what we would be looking at if I were to record this. Also with the webcam, because with the webcam, there's going to be an FPS difference as well. So, but that's what we're currently looking at for Tomb Raider, with everything on Ultimate. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the Rise of the Tomb Raider. I've already tested this. Even with recording, I'm not going to be able to get top notch out of Rise of the Tomb Raider, but it's still pretty damn well beautiful. So we'll see. So a quick note on Rise of the Tomb Raider. These are the options I'm looking at right here. All right. I did a test stream the other day. Streaming is a lot more demanding than recording, but with a note, it can actually depend on your recording software. I use Bandicam. Bandicam is not very demanding, but it's still a bit more demanding than software, say like GeForce Experience, which also has a recording option. I don't use GeForce Experience though, like I do for streaming, or I use it for streaming, but not for recording, because it's kind of unreliable at the moment. It's still pretty buggy, even for streaming. But these are the current options we're looking at. Texture quality, most of it's on high, but I keep Pure Hair off. Pure Hair is very demanding. Obviously what it's doing is it's processing each single strand of hair on Laura's head. And Rise of the Tomb Raider is by far a far more demanding benchmark than standard Tomb Raider. As I was noting before I was interrupted by the dog earlier, the Tomb Raider benchmark is very demanding, especially for like my older card, the GTX 960, and anything below that, including any Radeon series. Even on high settings, it can be pretty demanding, even though it came out in 2013. So it's still a fairly decent benchmark. But Rise of the Tomb Raider is my second. It's about equal with Ark, because Ark, which I play a lot of, obviously, is just about as demanding as Rise of the Tomb Raider for the graphics and the beautiful foliage, so on and so forth. But again, this isn't my library. There are obviously more demanding games out at the moment. I just don't own them, but this is what I have to work with. So that's where we're going. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. Normal FPS without recording. Last I tested this, sat anywhere between 60 and 70. So there's going to be a slight drop due to recording and, again, the webcam going. But again, as a YouTuber, that's stuff you got to look at. So let's go ahead and jump into it and see what we're looking at. Also, a quick note, this is just the display properties. Anti-aliasing is at SSAA4X. I can get more FPS by bringing that down. VSync double buffered, stereoscopic 3D, I don't have that on, even though the GTX 1070 is VR ready, which I'm pretty excited about, but I can't do that yet until I get a new CPU. So, but let's go ahead and jump into the benchmark, see what we get. Okay, so right now we're sitting at about 45 FPS. Obviously a slight drop. We're hitting 50. Rise of the Tomb Raider goes through 3 different scenes when recording or doing a benchmark. This first one is really more about the visuals and up close with the weather effects, like with snow. Oh, plummeted to 30. 29. We're hitting 60 degrees Celsius. Okay, next up. This is more about water effects than anything. Lighting and so forth. Man, it's such a beautiful game. That's why I love this game. I've beat it 7 times. Both recording and not. I think I've played it 3 times on my channel. Give or take. The next one, you'll see some stuff load in. Like the trees and stuff like that. Some tree forts and like, there it is, railing. Different things like that. This is very demanding, obviously. This is more about nature and the trees loading in and a bunch of objects on the ground, a lot more than what was in the previous stages. I think our average on this is going to be about 30 FPS, which still isn't bad. It would be bare minimum 30 FPS. Holds pretty strong. Okay, so on the mountain peak we had 40 FPS, Syria 30 FPS, geothermal 32. Overall average score is 34. Now again, that's with everything on high and SSA set to its highest, which anti-aliasing, which is going to be 2 things, is one of the most demanding things, and the second most demanding thing is going to be shadows, which I have fairly high. But with pure hair on, it actually would have been a lot worse. But pure hair, from my understanding, doesn't entirely rely on the GPU. It actually relies more on the CPU. So my CPU could be to blame for that. Let's go ahead and jump on to the next benchmark. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but I'm trying to get a few in this video. Wardrobe change. So the next test we're going to be doing is Batman Arkham Knight. Obviously, Arkham Knight had a very controversial release on PC. There was a lot of bugs. That needed to be worked out when this game first launched. They actually took it off the Steam store for a while because it was having so many problems. But let me just go ahead and show you what we're looking at here. I've got pretty much everything maxed out. I've got the max FPS set to 60. So the real test here will be to test if I can currently hold at 60 frames a second. With the 960 card I had to pretty much set everything to like about midway to hold 60 frames a second, and that was even barely, to be honest. But I've also turned on interactive smoke and paper, enhanced rain, and enhanced light shafts. So again, everything's maxed out. You can look by the video memory usage down on the bottom right. For 4,669 megabytes of 8,119 that the video card has. I'm sorry, I'm a little winded. I just ended up having to chase my dog. It's always fun. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to see what we're looking at. We're going to do the performance test, which is basically a benchmark, and see what we get. Alright, we got a little bit of stuttering. I think we're going to hold pretty solid at about 30. Shouldn't be bad. Minimum 17, average 31. Currently, Celsius is holding at about 55. Okay, now we get to shadows and lights. That's a beautiful scene. I mean, not with the building on fire, that's horrible, but... Average so far is 34 frames a second. And again, even with me recording, this will be a little bit better when I'm not recording. So gameplay, if you're doing this for yourself, will be a bit better. Some sound would be nice, but... Smoke effects. Well done. Celsius, we're still looking 58, 59. This is a long performance test. Whoa. What the? What's all this shaking there about? Okay, so that's what we're looking at. I thought the test was still going. Average of 33, isn't horrible. Again, that's with everything maxed out, and again with recording and the webcam going, so you got to take into consideration maybe 10, 12 frames per second. So average would probably be about 50, I would say. Well, 45 to 50. So you know, that's something to take into consideration. Now, next test, let's go ahead and get into it. This will be the final one for this video, and we'll see what we're looking at. Okay, so currently we are running the Firestrike graphics test. This is with recording, so we're going to see how we do. Hopefully, it kind of froze up there. Hopefully everything goes good. We'll see. But again, with recording and everything else going on, there's no telling how it'll look. I've only done this test once back on the 960, and I don't remember entirely what the case was, but I think there might be a jump cut here somewhere, just a heads up. We're currently sitting at about 49 frames a second. And then we'll see. Does it twice. Kind of a cool test. (46, 47). Celsius is close to 55. It's not even near 60 yet. If you're wondering about my cooling, I'm currently using fans, not water cooling. I'm not sure what it's doing each time, but I think it goes through it 3 times. And hopefully we'll get a general idea. I remember doing this with the 960. I had like a 98% reliability stress test, which I guess is good. I'm not sure. Again, I was just recently introduced to this, so we'll see. Okay, doing it a 4th time. Alright, I'll tell you what, we'll go through these tests. If there's another one, I'll record that one just to show you what it's like. But for now, we'll see what happens. Alright, so here is the stress test. 57.7% not passed. Now here's the thing though. Let me go ahead and note, because I actually did this again just to make sure without recording. But this was the result of when I was recording. Here's the thing. Recording, when you noticed it when I was doing it during the Firestrike test, it was sitting at about 40 to 45 frames per second. When I stopped recording, that thing skyrocketed up to 85 to 90 frames per second. So I think that's what had a major impact on this. So that's kind of the downside to recording, is that it does put a strain on your system and obviously affects reliability sometimes. Now, am I saying not to stream or record? No, not at all. But again, it can affect tests like this. So what I'll do is at some other point, I'll do another Firestrike test in another gamer log and show you the percentage, or I'll probably just go and put the percentage up on Twitter. I'll do that tonight. I think that's a better thing. So you can follow me on Twitter if you want, at SilentFan85, to see the test. Again, when I did it with the 960, it was like 98%. It requires at least 97%, and all loops must be completed. So, but anyway, it's not the end to this gamer log that I wanted, but it shows you what recording can do to your FPS. But you know, you can see GPU monitoring. This was at first, and this is where it got bumpy, and then bam, you know, that's pretty much how it is. This is that green line right there. This one right here. This is when I was recording, and again, this is when I was first starting. Right here, when I was recording, this is when I stopped recording, and then it just went all over the place right here. So that's essentially what's happening. But anyway, well, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll put the specifics down below with the build as well, and it just kind of shows you I don't have any examples from the 960, but my old card 960 to a 1070, the 1070 obviously far superior, and I'm enjoying it a lot more. It also cools better than the 960 because of the Armor 2X cooling system, which is really awesome. And again, that's with a basic setup with fans. I've got about 6 fans going in this rig, so it's pretty awesome. Anyway, remember, you're awesome. Never let the world see otherwise. And for now, I'll say, salute.